Okay, we're going to come out of the executive session and move into the open meeting for July 2021 Board of Directors for Chambers. We're going to move first into ratifying electronic votes. We have two. One was on July 14th, approving the May Board of Director meeting minutes.
Make the motion to ratify the e-vote.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And then second one was a electronic vote that was made on July 6th, responding to Mary Smith from the city of Rockwall regarding CLCA's experience with short-term rentals to provide prior info to the city council.
Motion to approve that e-vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right. That'll move us directly into the owner visitor forum. State your name and address.
I'm Phil Bishop, 333 Columbia Drive, Rockwall, Texas, 75032, in case you want to like mail me any money. I got just a few short things I want to talk about just for a moment. First thing is, I was fortunate enough to be able to get a little guided tour of the Yacht Club before it officially opened. I won't tell anybody who let me do that, for fear that they would be a lynching, probably of me and those people. But anyway, I love the place. I want to say, I love what you've done with the place. So, that's one thing. Second thing is, I wanted to thank everybody on the board and all the hard work that you do, especially Chip and Evan, because I visited with them several times, and just wanted to say, keep up the good work. Also want to compliment the staff. Every time I go into the office meeting some Italy-ass, whatever the hell it is, they just smile and help me. So that. And then the other thing is that on the very first, correct me if I repeat myself, on the very first board meeting that we had here, I promised all the board of directors that I was going to be buying you guys a drink when the club opened. Today's the day. So, Chaz, I need to get with you to make sure they don't order that $600 a glass whiskey that they don't like. I know they need it, but I don't want to pay for it. The next thing I wanted to just put out to the board, and I've mentioned this actually on one-on-one conversations with both Chip and Evan, that several years ago there was some discussion about trying to not raise the dues on senior citizens, which might have some monetary issues relative to covering the dues increases. And our documents don't allow us to do that. But I'm taking an idea that the Rockwall County tax collector has. There might be something there that we could do for the seniors if you so decided, which is if you're over a certain age, you can actually defer your taxes, which means they're still collected, et cetera, and they still accrue, but they are deferred until one of two things happens. Well, it's really one thing happens, which is the title to the property transfers, then those taxes will be due and payable. And that would typically occur from the standpoint of a senior citizen is if they pass away or sell their home. So that would be something I think that you could, it's an accounting deal, which T is going to love this, of course, try to figure out how to account for that, but it's probably pretty simple to do. And so the board might want to get together and just discuss that. I don't know. I know there's still senior citizens here that
Present company excluded.
No, present company of them there. I don't know, a whole lot of company included. Anyway, that was the only other thing I wanted to mention for y'all to just consider going forward.
So clarification, before what I had brought forward was a proposed dues increase freeze.
Correct.
And this is more of a dues increase deferment.
Yes, exactly right.
And so you and I have chatted about that, and so we actually discussed that already.
So you're ahead of me.
So we're looking at what do we have the legal ability to do that first and foremost? That's
Right.
what we got to figure out.
Right.
And if it then defaults back to it still requires a 2/3 vote, then it's the same as the other. So,
Right.
but it's a good idea, and I think it's of interest to this board to be able to do it if we can.
Yeah, well, and especially from the standpoint of, for many reasons, dues increases in the future are probably likely. So,
As we bring ourselves into alignment with where we're supposed to be, and make sure that in the future moving forward, we always plan for inflation.
yeah, it's like plague. It's like COVID. You either got to vaccinate for it or you're going to get it.
Right.
Yeah, so thanks, Phil. I mean, we'll be getting with our council in terms of what we're allowed to do and not do in that regard. So it was a good discussion today with the board on what the process for us to move forward looking for.
All right. Anyone else? Yes.
My name is Victor Carrillo. I'm at 108 Mischief. So thank you guys for your service. Good to be here. It's really an inquiry. So until recently, I hadn't seen this notice. It's on the 6.88 acres just outside Chandler, downslope of Spyglass, upward from the marina. So I did a little research. I went to the planning and zoning meeting recently. Just, you guys may know, but the item was tabled until July 27th. Well, there'll be another hearing, and then depending on the action, we'll go on to city council on August 4th or something to that effect. So mine is really an inquiry. We moved in January of 2012. And the proponent is Troy Lewis of Newstream. In the documentation, it was asserted that, we furthered our discussions with Chandler's Landing HOA Environmental Committee and board members in hopes to work with them on our proposal that the streets will be private and maintained by the HOA, and the subdivision will be governed by the umbrella HOA of Chandler's Landing. And then, so I went with that information, wanting to know more. And the proponent spoke and said that very day, although he's been working on this for 2 years, that he got a text from a Bruce Patton or Patton, you the treasurer? Okay. That the board approved of it, was supportive of it, etc. One, I want to know if that's the case. Two, I made the point that if you've been working on 2 years, why we don't have a letter with all the details. So my question is, has that gone through the process? Is the board supportive? And most importantly, what will the impact be on existing owner resident fees, dues, etc.? It was asserted, again, nothing documented, that it was to be considered a separate situation. The funding would not be commingled with that of the HOA. So those are my main questions.
Okay, so with any of these kinds of things, context is very important. So that is in PD8, which is Chandler's Landing, and you guys can jump in if I need to do further clarification. So we went out to get a legal opinion on whether it was subject or not to our HOA, and the resounding answer came back that yes, it is. Because all along, we're talking back to the 70s, all of this was considered one unit, even though Henry and Chandler separates it. So in going forward, what that's been zoned for is patio homes or zero lot line patio homes, 36 units. And then that would fit all of the normal height restrictions, which I believe is 30 feet. And so what we're not talking about is another version of a 40 or 50 foot condo cascading down the hill that we already have with 1, 2, and 3. They're putting in for a zoning request change to do them as townhomes. So basically, I think it's 5 or 6 buildings of like 4 and 6 properties. Likely price point for this kind of stuff is going to be in the $400,000 or $500,000 range with the view that it has. There's a rumor out on social media that it's going to become Section 8. Don't believe what you read on the internet. It would be gated as we are gated. And so that would be something that our security would patrol. They already patrol phases 1 and 3 of Spyglass. This is technically phase 4 of Spyglass, but it's being called Marina Village or something like that. In the past, I was on the environmental committee, and in the past, we've had other proposals come before us, and they were typically for much higher density. So more of like the condos that are up the hill, even though it's zoned for less. This is the first one that's come to us that actually fits the 36 units.
Right.
And so from an impact on number of people that would be using the amenities in Chandler's or traffic or anything like that, it's pretty negligible. 36 houses in the big picture when Chandler's has around 125, 1,025 properties. And they would have the ability to use like Spyglass 1 and 3. They would have the ability to use our amenities. But they would also be paying dues that would be whatever the dues rate is. So from an impact financially, we're talking 36 times wherever we're at with dues. So let's,
It's a little less than 80,000 for 2020, but everything was built out.
Yeah. So that's money that gets moved over into our balance sheet, and for that 36 residences get added on to the use of our facilities. We don't really find any of the amenities and facilities that we have are busting at the seams, so it's not like there's a capacity issue. So except for maybe the pool on July 4th. So
Yeah, I think the other piece of this, Victor, is just historically, for those of us that have lived here since right after it was dirt, there's been multiple attempts to rezone that property back in the early, 2007, 8, maybe a little bit before that. There was an attempt to build 76 townhomes on that property. I think Phil, Bruce, and I, some of us that have been here would say it was a rather contentious, and that's probably an understatement. The city wouldn't approve that. There was a zoning request a couple of years ago to I think started out at 50 some and then went to 43, 42 or 43.
Yeah, 46 or something.
And that was not approved either. So this is the first developer that has come in and has figured out a way to do it and stay within the spirit of the current zoning ordinance is for, as Kevin mentioned, is for 36 zero lot line garden homes. They're just asking to have it switch from garden homes to townhomes.
right.
So there's no impact increase in traffic. The city is requiring them to gate it and fence it. And it is part of the PD 8, as Evan said. So we've had attorneys, and to answer your other question is we've had a town hall meeting here. I don't believe you were in attendance. All the residents were notified of it through Town Square. That's our way to do it. And the real impact for the residents here are those on Harbor View, some parts of Harbor Landing, Volunteer, Spyglass 3, and that's effectively the big impact in terms of residents. So.
And most of what you said I already knew. I appreciate the context. But my question remains, is the HOA board supportive of it? And is that letter, will that letter be formalized because the city won't?
Yes,
Go
the
forward.
HOA is supportive of it because it is the best version of what we've seen. And at some point, something's going to go there. So it behooves us to be able to choose our best, control.
And I would encourage that in that letter, a little more detail. I mean, I always saw was an assertion of the text.
We sent there was a mix-up, and we have sent the document from our attorney, from our law firm to the city. It was actually sent later that night. There was just actually the email from us to the city did not go through their spam filter correctly, and so it was resent that night.
Two final points. One, of the people who testified, I don't think any were supportive, but there were some written comments that they were supportive. And I suspect with the table, there will be more opposition. I don't know. Secondly, so the final question is, the dues, et cetera, will be commingled. Everything is not.
Because it's part of
That's part of
Chandler's.
Chandler.
Okay.
I want to clarify the note to Ryan Miller, the Director of Planning and Zoning, because I wrote it.
Okay.
But what the board said was, we don't have an objection to it, which is a little different than saying we support it, but it's just, I just want to give you the words that
Okay.
were in that note. And we also commented, as Chip reiterated, that it's the best version
Sure.
of anything for that property that we've seen in 20 years, the last 20 years.
And I understand that and I appreciate that.
Okay.
So
One-
you
One
addressed
thing
my concerns.
that has come up too is Henry Chandler, the city does a very poor job of maintaining that road. I would like to think that with this addition, if we were to go in, that maybe they would pay better attention to that and everybody would benefit from them maintaining that road better.
It's a mess.
So in transparency, Victor, because I understand you got up and you object to it, so, and you live over on Mischief, which is about as far away as you can get from it. Would you mind just sharing with the board what your objection is to it?
I have not decided whether I'll attend the next meeting, whether that's the purpose of coming here. And I stated that it's not my habit to just go and object on things I don't know anything about. But I listened to the testimony. I had questions, and based on, honestly, some of the testimony of some of the other folks who live in Heath did not even get a notice because Rockwell is not obligated to send them a notice. I used to be a city councilman in Abilene, and I've actually suggested to them that there should be an intergovernmental agreement, at least in cases like this, where Rockwell would make Heath officials aware and they could notify their folks. So my opposition was really in support of some of the concerns I heard from the other folks. And the main one was, after 2 years, I would have thought that any support or opposition from Chandler's would have been firm and in place. So mine was really an opposition to table to get more info to move forward.
Okay.
One of the things was, my final thing is I'm a precinct 2A Republican Party chairman. So everyone here, probably if you live in Chandler's, are in my district. If anyone's interested in Republican Party issues, I'm the person to talk to, so I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you very much.
And thank you again for your service.
And I'm the former precinct 2A chairman before you.
Okay. We'll have to talk.
Two things I'd like to just add to is not only will phase 4 be paying dues to Chandler's Landing as part of our whole group, they'll also have their own due structure to cover any repairs of their streets, et cetera, and landscaping, fence repair, whatever it is as well, as does Spyglass. They don't.
And in regard to our neighbors in Heath, there has been zoning changes that probably peripherally have impacted us, and we don't get any notice either. And all of the homes on Lakeway, for the people that came, honestly, they've known for since for 40 years that something was going to be built on that property. So, right, Phil?
And none of them bought it.
Right. And I will tell you that I'm the property manager for Spyglass Hill Phase 3. I used to be for Phase 2 as well, but I'm not that person anymore. Phase 3 is really not opposed to the plan. They've actually, the plan that was previous to this, in some respects, was maybe even a little better than this one. What's better about this one is the heights of the units are much lower than they've ever been, because initially there was, I don't remember what the most was, it was maybe 40 feet or something, but anyway, so phase 3, generally speaking, are in favor of it as well, because they've always known there's going to be something there, so it's the least of the evils.
Yeah.
There is, however, an excellent solution to just not have to worry about this ever again, is if anybody has $1.7 million and wants to buy the land and leave it vacant, that would solve everybody's problems. We can make Joe Lane's big ass dog park down there. But then people wouldn't object about dog food.
Okay. All right, anyone else?
Something, Jennifer Drury, 131 Mischief Lane. Y'all keep talking about e-votes, and I'm on all the apps. For some reason, I never see these e-votes, and I figure like, I can't be the only one not knowing how these e-votes work. So can you walk us through?
Yeah.
However it's working, or what I need to do to fix it, so I want to make sure I'm getting it.
So electronic votes are essentially that they're email votes, usually given to things of lower priority, such as approving minutes or whatever. And so you would normally, we have a lot on the plate, and so we're trying to churn through it so that we don't have to postpone things just to the board meetings. And so the ability to do that in the middle of the board meetings, the months, is that we'd send out the minutes, for instance, and everyone would review them as if we were in a board meeting. And then everyone responds back on whether they approve the minutes. And then that's why you then have to ratify that electronic vote. So it is email, it's not done on Town Square or anything like that.
I
It's
see
not
the
like the city
meeting notes
council.
on Town Square, but I figured
Right.
something I'm missing, because I'm not getting any notifications of it. So I just need to look at
Electronic
email.
votes are an
and then-
internal, but it's not an email that anyone other than the board would see.
Oh,
It's-
so y'all are e-voting it.
Correct.
We are not e-voting.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
That's what I need to know.
All right, anyone else? Okay, I'll call it and we'll move into the reporting section. I've got 5 updates. North Gate Signage and the heavy load gate. We redesigned the signs because there was, I think, around 13 individual signs at the North Gate. And that's a lot of information to take in when you're a contractor thinking that that's where you're supposed to go because that's where Google has sent you. And we tried changing with Google. It's a whole other thing. So what we've done is we've taken all the signage and we've simplified it into 1, 2, 3 signs at the North Gate with a leading sign that's going to be outside of the gate heading towards the gate so that we can get people to realize this is not the place that you want to turn in. So it's going to have 2 lines on the bottom of it that says heavy load gate or delivery gate is half a mile ahead and the main gate is 3/4 of a mile ahead. And the reason we're saying that versus stoplight is because someone could get confused when they see that ahead of the stoplight at the North Gate and think that that's what it means. So we had to be very careful with some of the wording. Signs are a lot bigger, they're reflective. It has our branding on it. So it should be a really good representation and clean up a whole mess there and hopefully also clean up the process that we've seen. When Chip and I were down there reviewing it for 45 minutes, there were about 50% of the people that turned in had to back up and go out because they realized it once they were already in, which is again, a big part of why we're putting it further down the road. So that people can have a heads up before they get into that turning lane or as they're getting into that turning lane so they can get back. So that's going to be a nice representation of our neighborhood and also hopefully fix some problems there and clean things up so that it's much more easy to understand. The currently right now it says heavy load gate out there just in kind of like a beat up sign. The signage and poles on these should be a lot more permanent looking. And the heavy load gate will also have our branding and it's going to have iconography of trucks on it so that people can hopefully connect there.
So that's like a picture of the truck?
Yeah. Yeah, iconography, picture, yes.
If they can't read.
So we're hoping that it's helpful. Now, the one thing that we didn't do is put an Uber food delivery guy with a sign like crossing it out, because when we say delivery, sometimes that's confusing to certain things. But can't solve everything. I think it's going to be a really good look. I'm expecting those should be up within the next 2 weeks, possibly next week, but I would say real clearly within the next 2 weeks. So look for that change. The golf cart for the kids, we started the summer very strong in a bad way on that. And security has done a great job over the last few weeks, doing random stops, checking on whether people have their permits, if they're of age to drive. And I think word has gotten through the community, and it seems like there's a little bit less of that. We do still have some residents who, even though they agreed to follow the rules of the HOA, when it comes to this situation, the HOA has been told multiple times, or security and the HOA have been told, I don't really care about your rules. I'm their parent, and what I say goes, not your rules. So that idea continues to persist with a few residents. Here's what we're trying to do. My daughter's 12. The day she turned 12, she wanted to get her permit. You have to go through a process to do it. She did all of that. I am for allowing kids to drive. And let's be real clear, from 12 to 15, it's with an adult in the car with them. Someone that's over the age of 18. After 15, you have a driver's license, and so that suffices, and you don't have to do the other. But the point of it is no loss of life, and you can lose your life on a golf cart. You can fall out, hit your head on the curb. It seems like it's a toy, but it's not. No loss of life would be worth it. And so to the parents who don't care about the rules, first of all, you're setting a really bad example for your kids. Second of all, you're setting a bad example for other kids in the neighborhood. And then third of all, you're actually not caring about the safety of your kid, because the kids that are 12, 13, 14 that are driving around on golf carts are not being safe. And they're usually overloading the golf carts, and it's all fun until someone falls off and dies. So we don't want that to happen. And I'm pushing because I think the benefit for our children, there's so many benefits to living in challenge, but one of the benefits on this is they have an opportunity to get really comfortable with driving before they actually start driving on the road. And this potentially could save lives and save accidents if we're getting our younger kids in a responsible way, comfortable with driving. So I would like to see that not taken away and just say, make the age 16 like it is anywhere else in the city. So, and there's been discussion about that, of just removing it altogether, because our fear is someone dies, it's going to be a real sad day in Chambers. Okay. So it's gotten significantly better, but I invite you to let's all get on the same page with this. Let's be safe and enjoy what we have. Next thing is there is I brought forward essentially a 9-year plan now. It's a 10-year plan in its totality, based upon the loan that we have on this building that we refied, as well as the construction piece of it. So I just want to give a brief highlight. The plan that we have in place that would now have 9 years left on it, because it's timed with the loan, is that if it's followed, we will have the ability to pay off the loan in full, not have to refi it. So it'll be completely debt free in 9 years as far as this was concerned. And we would also at the same time be able to build our reserves from roughly around 300,000 where they are right now to 2.5 million, which will put us in a significantly better financial strength for future projects. It's also part of what I've said before, is it changes these board meetings from sometimes complaints to, hey, I noticed this. Thank you for being our eyes and ears. We have money to fix it. We can tackle that this next week. That's a really significant change in the structure of how some of the complaints and whatnot have not been able to be dealt with in the past because we didn't have funds to fix it. So the next 9 years, the plan, if followed by us or future versions of the board, will allow us to be completely debt free on this when the loan is done, and have a reserve of $2.5 million, and it also allows for around $1.25 million outside of the budget to invest back into it. And then at the end of that time, we would essentially have $1 million to $1.5 million per year that we can reinvest back into the neighborhood. And that's where we start seeing significant changes. We're prepared to spend lots of money on roads because we're going to be at that point 55 years of concrete on a lot of it. And we'd be able to make significant improvements pretty much anywhere we need to. And we can support, it's a lot of money in order to be able to make this what it was supposed to be, what it was intended to be, which was a lakeside resort style facility. So anyways, that plan is in place. Hopefully future boards will follow it. And if you want more details on it, I'm happy to always discuss them. We're working right now on a master plan for what I'm going to call the tennis court corridor, which would start at the Cabanas as you're going down the hill to the club, and then go all the way through and include all the tennis courts, but that kind of drainage area that goes all the way through down to the boardwalk, which by the way is being renamed Seawolf Lane. That's something the marina is doing. We don't have control over it, but I think that's a nice nod to Scottsdale. The tennis court corridor, what I wanted to see there is it's going to be a long process. We need to make improvements in the pathways. We need to make them wider so that golf carts can actually pass each other and give enough room for people walking. We need to increase the lighting. We need to add irrigation. We need to fix retaining walls around tennis courts. We can make that drainage area, instead of look like an afterthought, it can actually look really good and still be functional. So there's a lot of change that needs to happen because of it, and because we're not going to be able to financially right now pull the trigger on everything. That would be a very big project. It's going to happen over time. So my goal was, I didn't want it to look like patchwork when it's all said and done, because maybe it gets done over 10 years and different boards have different perspectives, and we could end up having different colored retaining walls and anything. So I moved to get a master plan done by a landscape architect. We have 2 that have responded so far that are working on getting us a bid to do the master plan. And so that's not yet voted on or anything, but that's the direction we're heading, so that future versions of the board will have basically that master plan to work off of. And hey, we have funds, let's attack this portion of it this year, and let's attack this portion of it. And then when it gets done, it ends up having a cohesive look, looking like it was all meant to be done together versus patchwork. So that's something that's in process as well. Connected with that is my 5th one, and you might have seen the stakes with the pink flags on them on the around the cabanas. We were looking at that southeast edge of this property to determine, because there's a lot of retaining walls through there, to get a really clear picture on what retaining walls are ours and what retaining walls aren't ours, so that we can also, for that master plan, know which ones need to be on the list and which ones don't. So that got done yesterday, and several of the board members have walked it. We've also taken photographs for posterity for all of the future versions of the board, so we have clarity on that. Plus, we have a very good electronic survey that shows us what the pictures help as well. So all that's been completed here in this last month, or started and in process. So that ends my report, and we're going to move over to Charles.
Hi, guys. See some familiar faces. Well, a lot of familiar faces now as I enter month 2.5 in. And also see some new faces. Welcome, Victor. I don't think we've met before, but I just wanted to preface kind of what I have to say in this next report by by kind of saying that I agree with Evan. Him and I have talked in depth about the goals and plans for this club, and I appreciate everyone's feedback and all the responses I've gotten from the community as we continue to help build the plan to take this club to be successful in the next 5 years. This isn't a snap my fingers and be done by the end of this summer and everything's going to be exactly how we wanted it to be, but build infrastructure through training, through retention, through having the same bartenders, having the same employees, having the same leaders internally inside the restaurant, preventing turnover, doing all the things that a successful business would do to build longevity, to give us strength over the next couple of years, are basically what I'm really trying to do here. So let me kind of start through as we go through the revenues. We did fall short of our revenue goal. That was in part to a couple factors, but on the restaurant side, we actually exceeded our budgeted revenue thanks to some new a la carte offerings and a menu that was priced accordingly. We also updated our summer wine list, which helped our wine cost of goods sold, and launched our charcuterie bottle and board pairing, which we've seen some feedback on, but really just a great amenity for a lot of the residents. We held 12 banquet events throughout June, a successful Father's Day celebration. We held a really fun event called Hot Girls Summer. I don't know if you all saw that going on upstairs in the ballroom, but that was a nod to a lot of the community in Rockwall, specifically the beauticians and whatnot, but we had a great showing out and a nice way to display the club and show all that we had to offer. We also participated in Taste of Chandler's amongst a couple of other events, which was really fun. Again, being a part of our community and kind of being, getting out there and seeing more from myself and also for my team, what it means to be a part of Chandler's Landing. As we kind of continue to evaluate and update, we're going to always be changing things to be competitive in our market, whether it be our menu pricing, whether it be our wine pricing, so on and so forth. Our total food cost of goods sold came in higher than expected, but that was mostly indicated of rising costs of goods sold, such as perishables, meat, produce, dairy. Chef and her team really did the best they could to organize it and be, again, competitive. We will be launching a new menu in August, which will feature 5 new menu items, including a mainstay steak entree, which I know we've been asking for, but we wanted to, again, price it conservatively that we were able to make. So we'll also continue an organization in the back of the house when it comes to organizing how we store our goods, how we inventory things, potentially looking through other means of, again, bringing more money to our bottom line, looking for things that aren't inventory that we're paying for, that maybe we should be putting on our inventory sheets weekly. And also from a wine inventory, we increased, of course, because we did our new summer wine rollout. We have 17 new bottles, which again, throughout every single week, you will see a selection between myself and my executive chef, Hillary, that will kind of continue to pair, so you guys can all try it. But again, we're open to feedback. You all will see a winter wine rollout as well. I like to try to keep it fresh every quarter. And so I'm open to, again, feedback from all the residents, from the board. If there's a bottle of wine that you guys are interested in or something that you think would sell really well, my door is always open. I love to hear about it. And we do take those notes and feedback well. In labor and operating expenses, we did finish over our budget. A couple main contributing factors to it was some expenses that we had incurred during my transition and the old transition of Ryan leaving the department. It was some help from a couple of the Kemper Sports management team that came here that you guys got to meet, like Art, the bartender, John Cheshire, John DeMaglio, Val himself, and then of course my initial up and running. You will continue to see those expenses fall off our balance sheet. That was a one-time transition cost that we had to pay in order to keep the business established, especially as we went from doing very little business to all of a sudden being wide open for business and facing summer months with a lot of events booked on the revenue, or I mean on the timeline. Linen cost is something that we've evaluated. We have taken meetings with both Alsco and Cintas, or Alsco is our current provider, but with Cintas and Aramark, and we're going to competitively price them against each other and see who can give us the best rate as we look to lower our overall linen costs. We do face quite a bit of linen costs because every time we have an event, we do linen all of the tables. It also goes towards mop heads, it goes towards aprons, it goes towards towels, and also some paper and chemical goods that we receive from them as well. So when you see a linen cost, like we were showing it's not just tablecloths for the tables, because we don't tablecloth every single table. It's kind of all encompassing of a couple more things. We also parted ways with our old cleaning company, and we've sourced a new cleaning company that will be doing daily cleanings for actually less money than we were spending for a bi-weekly cleaning crew. So they're going to come out 3 to 4 days a week. That's going to be one quarter. We're going to have dedicated tasks and duties for them as far as cleaning, and they will be with us for 3 to 4 hours a day, 3 to 4 days a week, which again is a savings on what we were doing from a bi-weekly deep clean of the entire facility. We think it'll maintain a better image, kind of put our best foot forward, and again, we'll give focused guidelines and routines for them, be it that maybe one day it's the portside room, next day it's the lounge, and it's just deep cleaning. They will bring all their own supplies, much like a major cleaning company does, and they have a great deal of experience in commercial settings, in restaurants. They do some stuff with the airport, and so they're a very large scale company, and we're hoping that we can be great partners with them. Labor increase was kind of forecasted as we knew that we were going to have to staff appropriately. We're now reanalyzing what our labor can actually run, but this was our first time, I think we hit a crest of being fully staffed, with which hopefully you all felt the benefit of, as we did, not running short staffed on shift, getting solid service both in the kitchen and in the front, short ticket times, 2 bartenders down in the lounge, the things that we needed to do to successfully run our business. We've now taken stock of what that cost actually is and are currently rewriting our budget for the next 6 months to accurately forecast what we're actually going to run versus what we have been running. From a customer review standpoint, Kemper Sports uses True Review. We're looking at an NPS score of a 100 right now, which is fantastic. We got 9.9s across the board, except for food, we got a 9.8, which again, Chef and I have already discussed what we could do to help move the needle on that. And that's going to be something that you'll hear the servers kind of talking about these next couple of weeks as well. It's posted on the bottom of every single one of your checks that you receive. The very first one. Correct. So, apologies. Thank you, Evan. So the very first one, it's posted on the bottom of it. It is a QR code that you can scan and then enter the app and provide real feedback. On Resi, we're rated at a 4.2, which is our reservation system. That kind of fluctuated over the past couple of weeks. We'd really like to see it at a 4.5 or above. But our hosts have done a great job of tracking down how many reservations are coming in. And that's giving us, again, another forecasting model to predicting our business. As we look forward to the next last couple months of summer into fall, I just kind of want to go over some GM points that I've touched base on. Jeff and I will continue the charcuterie board pairing every Wednesday with my wine selection and Chef Hillary's board presentation. This will focus on each of the 16 wines. Please follow our Facebook page or website if you have any questions or comments about that. Thursday night is now going to become community night. I want to specify that, community night in the lounge. We've just tested karaoke night to a wild success last night, so thank you all for showing up who did 2 nights ago. For that, we're going to do trivia night this upcoming Thursday, and then we're going to do a cornhole night the following Thursday. Each will come with some sort of special and pairing. We're going to test the scale of each event and also analyze its profitability to see which events in the upcoming months we're going to continue to sustain. But again, I appreciate all the feedback that you guys have given us and the chance that every event we're testing, this is kind of our first run through of what the success of it's going to be like, which kind of leads me into my next point of our 4th of July celebration. We offered an all-American buffet. We had lounge access all day. Firework viewing was incredible. We opened the door past reservation only to offer it as a community event for everyone. In doing so, we predicted X in our food product, and we went way past that. Again, great learning notes, great points to take. I knew that 4th of July was going to be big, but the people of Chandler's Landing showed me what a real 4th of July looks like. So again, all notes, all feedback that we took in stride. My team and I, again, write down and analyze what we would do next year to make it bigger, faster, stronger, or any other additional holiday as we finish out this year. Live music is going to be explored on different days depending on the cost versus reward analysis again that we're going to run. Again, karaoke was fantastic, but analyzing whether Sunday brunch will continue to be a profitable part or whether we explore it in a different day of the week. We're currently drafting a new cocktail list and accept input from our community. Key lime pies, anyway. Like I said, the new menu rollout will be coming with a steak entree option. We are updating the kids menu, and the new menu, when it does come out in August, is going to be on laminated paper, potentially in binders. I haven't really decided how the display of it really wants to go, but that's going to be our final mainstay as we roll into the fall and winter months. And then again, come spring, we'll probably look into doing a revision for this upcoming year. But that includes five offerings. An updated kids menu with coloring packet is going to be a really big thing that we've gotten asked for. So I had Chef drop that up for a lot of the children in the community, as well as visitors from outside. The implementation and use of Kemper Sports True Service Training. I've attended my first True Service training class and will attend another one here in a little bit and begin rolling that into my version of training, kind of marrying the two and taking the bounds and knowledge of Kemper Sports and all that they bring to the table, and also winding it in with what it means to be TYC and what it means to be a TYC employee. So that's, again, building that training binder that's going to be the long-term success of any new onboarded team member, be it front of house, back of house, salary. This will be the expectation that we've all set as a community and that we've set as a brand about how we're going to be training moving forward, which is the biggest thing, in my opinion, to preventing turnover, to enforcing standards, and to setting the right tone right out the gate. That's about all I have for you guys at the current moment. Do I have any questions? Anybody want to say anything? Say hi. Nothing.
It's Saturday morning, so we know that this is work for you as well. So
I appreciate it.
I want to let you get back to it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Well, I'll be here all day if y'all want to sit privately. Olivia did approach me, Phil, about the drinks, so I'll come up with a creative solution for that. And again, thank you all to the community for your continued support, and thank you to the board.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks. All right, moving over to Bruce's treasurer report.
Okay. This will be short and sweet, reflective of the community results for July. They were good. We have revenue of $229,000, which is about $55,000 more than normal. And that was due to insurance proceeds being received for storm damage to the office and the awning out in front, which was hit by a truck a couple of months ago. So that will be reinvested. So the actual number to wrap your mind around is a $3,000 gain for the community, including absorbing a $43,000 loss from the club. The loss for the community for year to date is down now under $100,000. It's $93,000. And since we invested a couple $100,000 of community funds to complete the renovation of the club, we should not be doing that the last 6 months of the year. We got a good chance of breaking even for the year for the community budget, which again includes the Yacht Club finances. So that's the way I see it at this point.
Good morning. Just a few things actually this morning. Kristen Hartani in compliance also has been working really hard over the past month. We're cleaning up vehicle registration. So we actually had 61 properties change ownership in the first quarter of the year. Some of those moved from one property to another. So if by chance your vehicle information is associated with the property that you don't live in, it will be purged and you will need to contact the office, because we are going through and just making sure that each property has the right vehicle associated with that. Not only helps us in the office, but it helps security, especially helps security at night when they've been working hard with overnight parking and their tours that they make. So also, again, we're still moving forward with golf cart registration. I know there has been some talk with the board. Maybe we move to like a 3-year inspection, but that's just an inspection. And that would need to involve security too. We have upcoming dates. We have elections coming up. The elections will be through vote.now again. You'll have 5 ways that you can vote. You'll be able to vote online, by telephone, through the US mailing service,
You'll be able to vote in person at the annual meeting. You'll be able to fax or email either from the office or from your home. The application and petition for candidacy will be available in the office on August 9th. That's also the date that's required for the board to announce how many board positions will be, the number of board candidates. August 27th will be the deadline for the candidate to turn in their petition at the office at 5 p.m. August 30th and 31st, the ballots will go out. We will have meet the candidates on August 28th. That'll be here at the Yacht Club up in the ballroom at 11 a.m. on a Saturday. On September 18th will be our election and annual meeting of members immediately following the Board of Directors meeting. And then October 16th, we go to our annual budget hearing. So we are already digging into the budget. We'll be digging into the budget. And there was some discussion this week through, and this is just in regards to like events in our welcome committee with our 61 property changes in ownership. I wanted to get with events and the welcome committee, see if we could at least quarterly or twice a year have some sort of a social mixer that includes children. So those children, especially now that some have been working or doing school from home, to meet each other. And then animal control has stated that they would like to do another pet fair. They would like to do that also with some form of registration of the animals. We had another one last week. And if there would be a way for us to look by breed and try to associate that animal with a homeowner, that would be helpful. And just kind of moving forward, if you're not signed up for Town Square, please contact the office so that you can get instruction to do so. That's a great way to communicate, not only with your neighbors, but with the office. And then finally, our delinquency summary. We have just over 90% that are 1 day to less than 60 days. 75% of all delinquent or of all accounts remain current. So basically that's it.
Good. Thank you, Steve. All right, Chip, security.
A couple updates. So we're averaging just a little over 15,000 cars a month that come through the visitor gate at the main gate. Just for perspective on that, there's a couple of things going in there. There are residents that do not put a sticker on their car. I keep harping on this, or get a toll tag. So those get counted in there. Out of the 15,000, about 1,100 were visitors to the Yacht Club, and another just short 1,100 that are outside tennis players coming in of that. We talked, I think we beat the kids in the golf carts dead horse here, but I will just put in there, the streets are private. We have rules for a reason. And, we've asked security to stop golf carts and check permits, but also where we have individuals that are not driving safely, to just basically stop them, call their parents, have them come pick them up. So there's just a lot of reckless driving going on. And then, as is the case here, also Allied has had some staffing challenges in their business too. So you may see some unfamiliar faces, and they're just having to use they're called flex officers to come in and fill in on certain shifts for us. It's hit their industry also. Moving on, just an update. So we've ordered all new Door King gate arm equipment for the North Gate. This will also include updated technology, but also on the metal slide gates. They'll be getting some refurbishment on those just to bring them up to current code and standards. We'll be replacing the entrance gates at the main gates for the visitor and the toll tag lane there. We'll get all new Door King equipment. It's a little over 10 years old. They're just worn out. So that's on order. Same issue in their business. Supply chain will drive the time frame to get that equipment in. Looks to be probably 4 to 6 weeks. So we ordered it early last week, so we'll probably see it sometime mid to late August, hopefully. The street repairs are complete this round, so the big spots, so Jim, you won't have, took care of your place, your 2 places down
Good job.
there. It was a well-run and operated program by the concrete company we used. They actually removed 8 inches of the base after they took everything out, reset. It's called the flex base, reset all that. And we had a great turnout. They did all this work in about just right at 3 weeks. So we'll be going through now on the ancillary streets and doing some rating of other potential areas, and then as funds permit, perhaps later in the year, right after the first of the year, we'll take a look at those. We're also looking at some other technology. There's little small spots, certain places water gets under there, how we can fill those in. It's not economical to saw cut like a foot square section out of the street and replace it. It's not good to do that. So I'm working on checking on those options, how we can seal those up quickly. And I think that's it.
Okay.
The streets turned out really.
Yeah, it turned out
Yeah,
really
you did
good.
right.
It's a good thing that cones aren't humans, or we'd have a body count of about 17 in here.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had some residents that saw fit to take the cones down and move them before the concrete had cured. And so hopefully the concrete holds up on that. And on that topic, so we, in 2019, when we did road repairs, we were paying about $16 and $16 a square foot. We paid just a little over $14 a square foot this time. So even with the increase in concrete, just being able to have some leverage and negotiate to get a better deal.
Thank you so much. All right, we're gonna move on to business. We've got two aspects. We have 2 different proposals from Magnolia Fisheries for our ponds. Proposal 1 will maintain optimum aesthetics as a primary focus of the work. Proposal 2 may lead to less desirable aesthetics during certain times of the year. Proposal 2 is actually the proposal that the Ponds Committee voted to recommend on June 15th of 2021. So I guess it's on our plate to kind of make a decision there.
Yeah, just well, I don't know if there's anybody in here from the Ponds Committee. Just a little background on this. So, well, for me personally, the ponds have been here longer than Chandler's Landing has been here. They were been here before the property was developed. Primary purpose of the ponds is flood control. And while TxDOT assured us, as Phil knows, because we sat in numerous meetings with them, that we would not take any runoff off of 740 after the road was rebuilt. We know that probably Phil and I will just call it our BS meters. We're off the chart on that one. The issue today is we have a little bit of a conflict on the Ponds Committee is really more into the fishing side of things and that. And so they're comfortable with some of the native, I'll just call them weeds, right? That grow in the ponds. The pond company, we've used these people for as long as I've been involved, since the early 2000s. They do a great job at saying that some of these grasses need to be exterminated, I guess is a way to put it. So I think they're there for flood control. The fishing part of it's nice, but ultimately it takes up space in the pond. So for water, and it also gets more, at some point here, we dredged back in early, mid 2004, 5, somewhere in there, we're probably gonna ultimately have to do some more on that.
Yeah.
It's very expensive.
There's probably more fish in the lake than there are in the ponds. I would suggest they fish in the lake.
So.
And definitely,
That's just
oh,
me.
and while we're,
And I don't ever catch anything anyway, so I have no.
and while we're on fishing in the ponds, let's do a quick reminder that trout lines are not something that you're supposed to do. It's expressly prohibited. And this last week, we had trout lines, 5 different ones put out in Blue Heron Pond, and resulted in the death of fish and turtles, and I think 1 snake, which I'm okay with. So it could have been a good snake, you're right. The only good snake is a dead snake.
They're not all milk.
But that's not true from Nicholas. Anyways.
Try to help you there.
So my opinion on this is we have the ponds committee for a reason, and if they reviewed and their focus is ponds, I would like to go along with what their suggestion is. So that would be proposal 2. So I would make a motion to approve that. Any discussion for a second?
I'm a little worried about the flooding myself.
Well, yeah.
There's quite a bit of that going on lately.
Right,
And
but this is for the Magnolia fishery proposal on just how it's gonna be maintained. We're gonna have to Chip's point, and we've talked about that before, we've had that meeting, is we're gonna have to do some significant dredging, and we're gonna have to do some significant improvement of the drainage from Sovereign Pond out. So we're aware of that. Again, we're trying to make positive steps forward as we're building the budget to be able to handle a lot of maintenance that a nearly 50-year-old community requires.
Can I just make one comment?
Yes.
And that's, I have no bearing on the decision.
Sure.
It will help the office. We receive a lot of calls about the ponds. And so Magnolia is out here every week. And especially around my kid fish, because we will have duckweed or these noxious weeds. And it will help us in the office as long as whenever a decision the board makes, that we know how to answer those calls. And just letting them know that Magnolia is taking care of whichever proposal the board decides.
So what are the costs associated to each of these?
No difference in costs, other than chemical. You actually, when you use the second, so if you were, this is just me because I have pond too. And if you let it get out of control, it takes longer time, and probably more chemical to clear the pond. And so if I'm not on top of it, it's the same chemicals I use, but I will end up using more when it gets out of hand. And this year was just a weird year because of the rain and the freeze and
So
everything
is the
we
choice
had.
between a professional company and Wire Pond?
No, it's the same company does it, it's just philosophical, so to me, they're there for flood control. And there's just the ponds people, and I respect it, I don't agree with it, is they're turning them into, the fishing ponds, stock ponds and fishing ponds, and that's not their primary purpose. And so more weeds, more things in the pond, and
So proposal
it's
1 is less weeds, proposal 2
there's more weeds, right?
So,
Yeah.
But proposal 2 is what the
The
ponds
one-
committee.
because
voted.
are they like
It is, but I will,
are they helping preserve nature with these ponds in any capacity? Is there one that's going to?
I will say what Magnolia says is pretty much so they do a lot of them. Most of the ponds are not the alternate scope. Most communities. So the way they do, they kind of back off on our ponds. So I'm not sure it helps with like your, when you stock it, but your
That's fine. The primary
fish
purpose
and
though
stuff
is
like
flood
that.
control.
It's the same cost either way, so
Yeah,
I guess
But also nature.
it comes- right.
they would pay 3,500 this last month. That's how much chemical they had to ponds. And that was different than normal, but that's a different year. We had cooler temperatures. We have a lot of die off because of the freeze. So you have a lot, and as that decomposes, then that changes So Jewel, this is a different year.
Then we stock them with weed eaters. Weed eater.
A grass cart.
Huh?
They're grass cart, they have 5-year life. I would put some grass
All
cart.
right, so I made a proposal in honor of our ponds committee to go that direction. We've had discussion, we have a second. Do we want to relook at the aesthetic one of proposal one over more weeds, which is better for fishing? So we have aesthetics and fish.
Well, you made a proposal, so we got either, you either have to withdraw it or we gotta vote on it.
So will both be they neutral from a flood control standpoint?
Flood control is neutral. And cost is the same.
And it would lean towards nature with the second proposal because you got more fish and more
Mhm.
weeds.
Right, and it would lean
And
towards
these
aesthetics.
are noxious weeds, they're not good weeds.
Right. Okay,
So because you heard the visions.
so now that we've had more discussion, and there's more clarity on what proposal 1 and 2, I was probably a little bit early. Done with that. I'll withdraw. And then we'll let anyone else make a motion.
I call the motion.
I'd like to table it. I'd like to move it so I have more time to talk to people that are in nature. I just want to see if there's any conflict with having less weeds or more weeds, or, I mean, that's just me. I like a little more time to kind of look at it than what's written down here, but
Okay.
I'm just a big nature lover, and I just
Well, I
want to
mean-
make sure it's all, but I also respect the right that it's a big flooding area. I mean, we
But
have
none
to-
of this isn't,
it's none of that.
this is not that scope.
Okay,
This is just how they're maintained.
I can just abstain and let y'all vote. I can do that too.
Go fish.
I'm gonna make a motion that we go with the proposal recommended by Magnolia Fisheries, which is not the one that the ponds committee has.
So
Right,
proposal 1.
proposal 1, right, Pete?
Can we make a motion while there's another motion?
I withdrew it.
Oh, you withdrew it, there you go.
Not that they would recommend for a community.
From a fishing standpoint.
Well, not from a fishing, but for a community, any other community. So let's say that you're Savannah. Up there, you know, they have their ponds. Those ponds are maintained more in like a proposal 1. So that is the catch drain up, you know, where but I don't want to lead the board in one way or another.
Right.
But when I spoke to him, and maybe that you guys would like to speak to him personally, is
Yes.
Scott Wood states the optimum, or what they would recommend would be proposal 1. They backed away from that because Ponds has always come to them and said, we prefer that you use this other, even if it may be
I get it. Can I restate that?
Yeah.
So Magnolia Fishery originally would have suggested proposal 1 from an aesthetic standpoint.
that's how. they
And then Ponds Committee prefers the fishing aspect and talked with Magnolia. And so Magnolia therefore has backed off on their perspective.
Yes, and it was
Do
especially.
half
that
one way and
happened-
half the other.
Mhm.
Ooh, I like that.
It was like, wow.
I would like
So,
someone
you
from
know.
the ponds committee here. Why this is going through.
They've given their vote and
Yeah.
it was in line with the fishing over the aesthetics. Again, same cost, same company, just a different methodology or perspective there. So if we don't want to make a decision, he's got a proposal out.
Yeah, he has a proposal of 1.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Bill second for proposal 1.
Yes.
Any discussion?
How many ponds do they take care of?
All
4.
4 of them.
What about going 2 and 2 for a year and evaluate?
Is that something we can do?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Like, which.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which did-
I mean, or you've got like the
Alright, so
fountain pond,
Let's do
where
it.
that's good to not have so much weed in it, because then you've got the fountain going and.
But
maybe too,
let's do
blue heron
this.
is
I'm
different.
gonna withdraw my motion and make a motion to table it until we can have a discussion with the ponds committee and get some buy-in. And then we can either do it by ego or something else. So I'm gonna withdraw my motion.
Okay, motion withdrawn and tabled. Okay. Okay, good deal. And then standard operating procedure, homeowners maintenance request of trees for common area onto their property. Walk us through that.
So we have, as we know, we have a lot of trees. We have a lot of damaged trees. We have a lot of growth from common areas onto homeowner properties. And neighbor to neighbor, the policy is if it grows over into your property, you can cut up, you know.
Because
on
your
over
property line essentially goes into the sky
Yeah,
at
and
your property.
we may have a case where there's a tree that's grown from a common area, now that tree is up against, it's grown up against the house, we get a lot of requests, so it's just how, if I had a standard operating procedure, whether that be that, yes, I'll immediately call for a bid, someone there to take care of that, because typically maintenance cannot, not only from risk of workman's comp, if they were to get hurt, etc. How does the board want? So I get a lot of them. We spend a lot on tree maintenance, and we have a lot of older trees.
Right. And this has been part of my perspective is why we need to get financially prepared for the future is, yeah, it's nature, but the way that we're living in it, we also want it to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible. And there's been a lot of deferred maintenance on Mansell Park, for instance.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that it should look like the Arboretum, but in the future, I would love to have some sort of version of that where, you know, shade flowers and trees are trimmed so that they're also kept healthy. And so we don't have a lot of deadfall or risk associated with that. So this all comes back to having the proper finances in order to do that.
There's nothing that prohibits a homeowner from trimming our tree that's hanging over there.
Correct.
I have a question.
Correct.
You know, typically, if you live in anywhere else in the world, you know, if your neighbor's tree is there and you want to trim it, you call your tree guy and then trim it.
Yes.
So why are we paying for people to trim those trees?
No. They should be able to trim it on their own property at their expense.
In fact,
We get
Channel
requests
8's
probably
verified.
weekly.
For
can
us,
just
they
get
do
a-
us to do
our
it.
tree, but it's on their property line. But they
Channel
would-
8's Verify team just did a segment on that a couple of nights ago.
You see that?
And you can trim your neighbor's tree up
To
on
your
your
property
property, over your, as long as it doesn't go back on there, you can trim it to your property.
I believe the most simple way forward is to go forward with that sort of methodology, that if it's at your property, now, we're not talking 5 feet over your fence trimming, but like at your property line, you're able to trim any of those that are coming in, but it's at your expense.
When I provided a picture of one, and it's good, you know, it's over the driveway, it's coming from the common area and it's up against the house.
You can trim it. Yeah, they can.
So they can trim it, yeah, but I get requests just, and that's what we tell the homeowner, if the homeowner calls to listen, my neighbor's tree, we'll be like, well, you know, you're welcome to trim it, it's a neighbor to neighbor issue, that's how, and so they will, and then we'll have the other one say, well, I appreciate that, but then they threw the lens over, and it's like, well, just, come on,
In this situation, Chandler's Landing is the neighbor,
yes, we are.
and it's our tree, but I think it should follow the same rule as anything else.
I agree.
They're welcome to trim the tree,
And dispose properly.
and dispose
Yes.
properly. Yeah, but
That's
it's
not
not,
something
it's
we-
not something that the HOA should start now trimming trees on
No.
other people's property.
And it's been some
I'm,
here, some there in the
We shouldn't
past,
have
we
to
just need to know everybody's treated the
Yeah.
same.
so that
We don't
is,
do one tree and then not another.
that makes the most logical step forward, and it's not juxtaposed to what else is normal. Yeah.
There's an aspect of this, maybe we could just address it quickly, but let's say a tree falls down out of the common area into somebody's yard, who's responsible for it?
We just
We
had
just
that,
had that, we're on the hook.
we just had that
Okay.
with the
Yeah,
So
fence
that's
that was.
clear.
Yeah.
Good.
But what we really want to know is if no one's here there to hear it.
Do you have to pay?
Yeah, and the rest of the world is that if I have a tree that falls on my neighbor's house, it's my responsibility.
Yeah,
So
and we
that's the
follow
same thing.
your
We're the
insurance.
neighbors.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so I will make a motion that moving forward for SOP for the front office, when people call to request for chandlers to trim trees that are rooted on our common property, but whose branches have extended into their property, that is treated the same as a neighbor-to-neighbor issue, and it is up to them to trim it at their property line or thin it out or whatever they want to do up to their property line. Okay,
Second.
second, Chip, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. You are welcome. Okay, moving over to old business. Tennis court retaining wall. There was I made a motion to have the wall survey. I talked about that earlier. That was completed yesterday, and we've since walked all of that and have that historical data and visual perspective. So that is complete.
Yeah, and just thanks to Russ for giving us the details on that. So we didn't actually have it resurveyed. We just had Betty come out and locate the stakes and mark them for us so that we could visually see what walls belong to the HOA and what walls belong to other people.
Yep.
So,
Okay. All right, and then you did the street repair center. Yep, so we'll get there. That takes us to owner visitor forum number 2. Anyone?
I just have one thing, as you probably guess. I had mentioned to T earlier that in redoing the signs, especially for the trucks and so forth, that as you go, let's say from the club up Yacht Club to the main entrance exit, that there be a sign there that points straight ahead that says truck exit. Because they always want to disconnect the first.
That's good.
Yeah, there's actually been a discussion this last week on the heavy load gate, delivery gate exit, and how we can control that, because that sits right next to a house, and there are people, probably not residents, that will leave that gate at night. And that's again right next to residents, so it makes noise and whatnot. So we're looking at how we can curb that. Well, can't turn it off because it actually turns the camera off. It's all wired together.
We gotta make some changes.
So we're gonna make some changes on that to better that.
Roll out some tire strips.
I'm thinking, legitimately, I'm thinking about like having the little arms, the bar arms that can come closed and have a sign on it that says it's, it's closed for these hours or whatever. We talked with security on that. That's gonna take about a minute or two in the morning to open up and a minute or two in the evening to close, and it solves the problem, other than someone driving around that. And if they're driving around it, so, anyways, but working on that. Anybody else?
I have something. Bid Northcutt 102 Aurora Circle. In regards to the pond, both of this table, I spend a lot of time in this neighborhood during the week, and I never see anyone fishing at a pond. It's very rare. It's very rare. So from that aspect, as much money and time has been spent in this community to be aesthetically pleasing, I would urge you to vote for proposal 1.
Okay, noted. Thank you. Anybody else? Jennifer?
Very good. Have we, and I'm sure you have, like there's people ask, what about the tree in the park?
The one that's
Sideways.
Sideways. Yeah.
We thought maybe there might be residents that might want wood. I mean, they might want to cut it down. It's a pretty good tree. It's been around for a long time. I don't think this is the big one, right?
Yeah.
Are we talking about that?
The picture that we have where it's just like,
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
there's other trees underneath it that not.
yeah, true.
That are kind of.
It's very expensive for us to take it out.
Just Put a sign up that says photo opportunity.
Oh, it is.
Set all your
It is,
kids
but
on it.
not for kids.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if anything has been.
See, how much was that tree again for someone to take? 6,500.
Just for the
So,
tree.
I
Maybe
mean,
we get a bid from the guy in the neighborhood. that does trees. That's.
That's
right.
what
Two gave us the-
And his, we actually have two. So for now, we did take care of the 7 trees, the cedars that were affected, and then the one we trimmed. And so we've had a lot of issues with trees, actually just uprooting roots and all. And I think a lot of it had to do with the freeze that we had and then the rain. So we just, for now,
We could have a contest that whoever could saw it in half fastest wins $1,000.
Well, so like the lumberjack contest.
Yes.
yeah,
Okay,
as
okay.
I said,
See,
Don't
that's
anybody get
included in
hurt
our
doing it.
insurance.
yeah.
Just get another endorsement.
So I think the answer is we're kind of postponing on that right now because of the expense. But then going back to what I previously mentioned about, there's a need to invest a lot of money overall back into that area. So it's definitely on the radar from that.
Where are the neighbors when you?
there's somebody out there with a chainsaw.
There's several. All right, anybody else?
Just sign a waiver.
I'll make a motion.
Have all the firewood you want.
Make a motion.
Second, all in favor? Thank you all for being here today.
I don't want the wood, but I'll cut it up.